Okay, so I know crypto is out of favor. I know it is not cool. I know everyone lost their homes, their car. They're living in their car. Their families hate them. Thanksgiving is going to be really fun for a lot of ETH and BTC maxis this year when their family asks them how their crypto is doing. But one of the sort of luminaries of the space and the NFT space for a while, who on Twitter is known as Punk6529, had a really interesting thread. I'm just going to shoot it to you guys in a group chat really quickly right now, since I don't think either of you guys have seen it. But it sort of really touched on an idea that I think is really close to home for me, which is just that like the understanding of what life costs in a major metropolitan city in the United States is just so astronomically different from what the life costs in somewhere else. And so it just starts out, says, it just, on Is Money Just a Game? Too long didn't read. For most people, it's a huge struggle, but the people who make the most money tend to think of it as a game. Can we thread the needle and figure out why both people are right? We'll try. Off we go. Anyway, it just goes into this deep dive of understanding that, like, at scale, you sort of have to start thinking about money as a game, because when you're in a city, when you're living in a place where making $500,000 a year doesn't allow you to keep your kids in school, right, and live in an apartment in a nice neighborhood, that money just has to become this weird sort of game-like thing, and that it ends up becoming that often people are more successful that sort of look at winning money as just like winning as a game versus, people. I'm going to try and find another quote from it, people that are making significantly less.
So 6529, which feels weird to call another man, but here we are in Web3. But like he's had a lot of these like kind of conversations around like existentially, like what is money? What is making it and not going to make it? What is like, all these kind of terminologies are going around, because it is conceptually like hard for people to imagine. But you do look at like the numbers are so boggling when you get to the metropolitan point. Because it's funny when James mentioned that, I was like, oh, that's what it costs to go to my wife's high school for a year. You start looking at it from that perspective, you realize there is absolutely no other way to looking at that besides looking at numbers in ways that are like where you have to you have to play them off of each other. You have to use them to get results. You have to be attempting things. You have to be like literally playing a game or playing an extension of, how people interact with the world, which is just not how most people think about money, because it's just a check that comes in every 2 weeks.
And I think so many people have baggage with money that obviously makes that so much more difficult. But I think there's a lot to figuring out just kind of like how you interface with it, and then playing that in your favor, leveraging that, rather than letting it do the opposite. And I think that for a lot of people with really negative baggage around money, you get bogged down in that, and it has a very negative effect. I think I always come back to that adage. I'm not sure if we can call it an adage at this stage, but there's the cap on how much you can save is relative to how much you make. If you make 50 grand a year, you will never be able to spend more than 50 grand less, right? Than you already do. And there's an unlimited ceiling to how much more you can make. And I think that, I don't know, there's serious mind games around money. And if everybody could break whatever baggage they have, it'd be very productive.
In this thread, I only read like the first half of this thread when I saw it this morning, but there was it's like, it basically has the outline that like, hey, $20 million is a common number for people in finance in Manhattan to say that they want to retire with. And that money basically like is also only enough for you to have like a modest life by those people's standards, which is so hard for anyone else to comprehend. But like, that's an existential quandary for those people. The reason they're talking about it all the time or thinking about it all the time is because you have to be obsessed with it to some regard to even have a chance of getting to it. And then if you don't, the other options are, cool, you're no longer a part of this life and lifestyle that you were in for a long time. And I think about this like a decent amount, because we're like, all right, cool. Like, I could technically live roughly like a lifestyle like I have for a really very long time based on what we have now. But then you're like, okay, well, is that what you want? Is like, what do you aspire to? And like, what does that happiness quotient look like? And then if you say, okay, well, I could take a significant step back. Well, what difference in your lifestyle is that? I think a lot of people don't take the time to actually plan that out, because they're still looking at the nuts and bolts of the numbers versus saying, where are the exponential jumps? And also, do I really want that? Because I look at that Manhattan side and say, that's not what I'm looking for.
Totally.
Right.
But I think all the time people say, oh, like, the question that kept getting asked in the thread is, what is your number? Right. And that's what Oren was talking about. Like, what's your number you need to retire? And so people always say like, oh, well, why do you have to live in Manhattan? I mean, I get in beef people all the time, like, move to Texas. Like, cool, I love Texas, but I don't want to move to Texas right now, right? But we could play that game forever. Like, okay,
right.
why move to Texas? Why don't we go to West Africa? I mean, like sub-Saharan Africa, right? Like, and we could play this game forever. Well, because to
I love that jump though. It's like
no, but I think that jump is important to show you. I just think that jump is important because I think I sometimes give giant jumps like that to make it clear that there is an actual like, because people say, no, I don't want to move to Africa. That my family's not over there. I know nobody there. I'm like, okay, I also don't want to move to like Des Moines. My family's not there. Yeah. I don't know anybody there.
My family's not there. I don't know anyone there. It's Des Moines.
It's Des Moines.
Or Dallas for that.
Iowa Board of Tourism sponsor the pod.
I mean, we'll take it. We'll take any sponsors.
We'll take whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a really fascinating thing to me because before I ever had any money, like I always judged people that grew to the size of their pond. And I for sure try to mitigate that in my own life, but for sure have quickly grow to the size of my pond, in which like
says like, man driving BMW living in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, I like was just the Porsche dealer the other day. I'm like, oh, I guess I could.
You membership to SVB and Soho House or just
yeah, and on Wednesday I'm going to the opening of Caviar Caspia. But I think that it's one of those things where. I mean, even me today, like my car is, not to be weird, but my car cost me, I think, $862 a month, and I'm like, okay, I could pay $2,500 a month, and it's like for this a 2021 911, not a base 911, not an S, not a you know what I mean, like, and
not a Benyaga,
no, but so quickly we all grow to the size of our ponds, and so then we sort of base our happiness. You know, so much of my happiness is predicated on like being around people I know and I love. And almost everyone I know and I love, especially as a single guy, is either in LA or
Porsche 911 Turbo S.
Drives a Porsche 911 Turbo S. That's the only way I'll be
in LA or New York.
That's the only way I'll be happy. But I think it's just tough for people to conceptualize. I mean, it sounds ridiculous even to say it out loud, right? The idea like 20 million might not be enough to sort of keep up with the Joneses. But it's just a reality in some parts of the world. And my point, the reason I'm always fascinated by this. No. The reason I'm always fascinated by this is because, like, in a country like America with 300 million plus people, like, if you have people that live in cities in which making $120,000 a year is the poverty line, which is what it's like in Manhattan, right? How can that person vote and have the same needs as someone who lives in a place where the rent is $300 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment? Right, forget even the cultural and religious differences that might exist, right? But like just voting for what is important to them and what keeps their lives happy in terms of taxes, it's almost impossible. So,
I mean, outside of the I can't talk today. Outside of the socioeconomic dynamics with like the disparity there, just the fact that we can be in the same country, relatively close to each other, and have one area where it's $300 a month, in one area where it's
yeah, but I don't think it's 10, that complicated. Like, let's take this back to the Neanderthals. It's like, cool. Hey, brothers, do you guys want to live next to the waterfall where there's all the plants and stuff? Yeah. And there's like a herd of elk, or do you want to live on the top of that butte? And then they're going to be like, and guess what? You got to pay 8 more rocks and hunt another bear if you're going to not stay on the butte. Like, I think this is a pretty, it's more straightforward than people give it credit for.
It's true.
Yeah, but then it's like,
and then the guys in the butte are like, why does no one want to come up here?
Why is nobody on the butte with us? They're like, well, because I'm on the butte because my shithead family's here.
Yeah, exactly. It just was. It's interesting because it's something that has been appropriate in my life. Like I've lived in, $5,000 1-bedroom apartments, which is not even the top end. I paid $575 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. Like in Kuala Lumpur. Like in a 4-star hotel that was fully furnished with like an infinity pool and a 50th story in my roof. Yeah. See the Kuala Lumpur, please sponsor the podcast.
I forgot to, I haven't mentioned this to you guys, but the couple that bought our old house moved here from New York City. Like they got to be living on cloud 9. They got a yard. They've got bedrooms. They've got that beautiful ass Alpha Den that I finished.
They've got a wonderful Renaissance fair. Right down the way.
Dude, no, but this actually
we're
brings
talking
up
about my house
thing.
where we're not making bad Portland jokes.
I was talking to one of my best friends, Owen, about this the other day because he was talking about our friend Julian who moved to the Catskills. And he was like, man, he wants to live up in the middle of nowhere. I was like, bro, the Catskills is like the trendiest part of upstate New York. Like it is like popping. They didn't move to like Siberia.
Beautiful.
You know, it's beautiful. And so for me, I started off in New York City. I now live in LA, which is like the suburbs light, I feel like, and compared to Manhattan, which is like just the biggest city in the world. My next step, I would love to have a yard, right? And then I can imagine being an old man trying to tell everyone to fuck off while I lived in the fucking woods.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
So
but
good.
to each their own. You know what I mean? Like it's really such a subjective.
You can imagine turning on your 8.5-foot werewolf and scaring someone neighborhood dog.
Yeah, listen.
Just the other day, I was out in the front yard with Cece, and somebody sped by, and I like grabbed a pitchfork and stepped out, and I like in that moment I became a man.
I became a man.
Pitchfork?
The fact that you have a pitchfork by the door is extremely Portland and very sick.
It was a gas can. It was a gas can for the lawnmower. No.
It was a gas can.
Now I'm just thoroughly confused. What exactly do you keep by your door?
Well, we're remodeling right now, so there's really a lot out in that driveway.
It's more of a smorgasbord. Yeah.
Dude, while we're here, actually, talking about Colin's house, is there a Mew update? Or are we giving up on...
Wait,
do we crush that dream?
Has Money Twitter found the Catskills? Wait, sorry.
Yeah. Mew update. We're also remodeling the Mew.
Okay, what's it becoming?
What does that mean? The birds.
A baby den.
We're putting walls on it, maybe some floors. Going to use it as a shed.
Okay.
Barn talk.
I'm not sure it's big enough to call it a barn.
Barns are sick.
You guys have a large shed, bro.
Ponies?
Have I even sent you guys pictures of the Mew? It's like an L shape.
Yeah, it goes around the backyard, right?
When we were thoroughly discussing actually training the birds and doing what you should be doing with the Mew instead of turning it into a barn, then we're still waiting.
This is a good segue into next time you guys both come to Portland, we're recording the pod in the sauna at 168 degrees.
Swag.
Flames.
Swag.
I don't know that the equipment will make it.
Does it fit all three of us, or is it going to be real cozy sauna?
I often live my life asking what would Laird Hamilton do, and he would record with his bras in the sauna. Yeah. So here we go.
Just dumping sweat. Yeah.
It's gone off that Laird superfood. Anyway.
Do you do the sauna alone, or do you get Kelsey and Cece into the sauna with you?
Every time I get in the sauna, I ask Kelsey to do the sauna, and she hasn't yet.
She doesn't want to sweat out these toxins and the weight of the world, bro. She doesn't understand the white man's burden. You know,
she's a coward. She's a coward.
That's a whole other pod.
It is pretty intense. And like I was telling you guys on the text, like I gotta set up like an outdoor shower, because the workflow right now, where you come out of there, you're dumping sweat, and then you have to like traipse through the house dumping in sweat into a shower, and then like do that, and then
just put the hose on like a little rack.
Yeah, that's what
you take that pitchfork, put it in the ground.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put like an outdoor shower there right at the house.
Yeah, you take a picture.
I'm gonna put like a
and then light yourself on fire. And if you're truly a Targaryen, you're not gonna burn.
What's a Targaryen?
It's Game of Thrones, baby.
It doesn't matter, brother.
Oh, I don't watch Game of Thrones.
Well, that explains a lot. I don't even know what just that meant.
It's too close to home in Portland. Yeah, you're just like no, yeah.
Nothing would bring me more joy than to have Oren. If like Oren like spins the wheel and he has to live in Portland, because for whatever reason Oren just.
Oh, I love it.
I've only been in Portland once, and I had a dope ass time in Portland. But Oren just
I had a great time.
Hates.
I have friends there. I enjoy going there every time. It's just funny to rib Colin for it, because he hasn't experienced the joy of living in a Tier A city.
and never will.
And it never will.
All right, that's another pod. City Tears.